Hello. I'm always trying to improve myself, but fitness has been a particularly difficult problem. I've been trying to lose weight for 6 years, and I'll lose a little bit, and then it goes back up. And I have gradually learned that there are many levels to this, and I think I have a strategy that will work finally. I have some difficulties that I think are specific to my personality type. And I will go through those. But basically, my strategy is to lose fat with ketosis and by reducing chronic stress. People don't talk about this enough, but that's a big problem with losing weight. And I want to build muscle as well. So, first of all, let's talk about ketosis. Ketosis is the best way to lose fat. It's less efficient at burning fat for energy, so it burns more. Mitochondria increase to enable quick and easy conversion of available ketones to energy at the expense of efficiency. So ketones are not as good at the energy bursts as glucose. And so to compensate for that, what the body does is it creates more mitochondria so that it can more quickly convert ketones into energy that you can use. So the higher number of mitochondria actually makes you less efficient at using your energy. But the important thing the body does is give you the ability to expend energy quickly. That's important for survival, historically. And sometimes in modern life. Okay, so we need to talk about carbohydrates and cortisol because ketosis is maintained by keeping blood glucose low. And there are two things that actually prevent this. And hardly anyone talks about cortisol, but it's a huge thing. So let's talk about both of these. Carbohydrates. Don't eat so many carbs. Limit to 50 grams. It's difficult, but you can do it. Yeah. That's all there is to say about that. This is the complicated and challenging one. The one that nobody talks about that I had to piece together over the years. The purpose of cortisol is to raise blood glucose using existing resources to enable bursts of energy which can't come from ketones. So cortisol is raised when the brain anticipates a potential need for energy bursts, which are mornings, emotional stress like conflict, anticipation of difficulties or meaningless activities, and other stressors. Minimizing stress will make staying in ketosis easier. For me, my biggest personal stressors are working for other people on meaningless and boring tasks, meetings, pointless social interactions, driving, and any other activity where I'm surrounded by stupid people. There's a lot of them. Kids and loud noises. So once I was relaxing at my parents' house when I heard my volatile nephew walk in. And I was wearing a continuous glucose monitor. It's actually really fun. You should try this. You get to see what makes your blood sugar go up. And as soon as I heard him, my blood sugar went from 80 to 120 in just a few minutes. And I didn't eat anything. I was still sitting in a chair. But my body was like, okay, I need to prepare for action. So what can you do when there's something stressful that happens and it's almost like you ate something sugary? How are you going to stay in ketosis? Well, emotional stress-induced cortisol is lowered by carbohydrates. So your body knows the blood sugar has to go up. It's going to go up either with carbohydrates or stress breaking down glycogen and protein. So it has to go up. So stress creates a very strong appetite for junk food. It doesn't want to break down the proteins in your body. It doesn't want to lose the muscle that you worked hard to gain. And so after experiencing stress, some people have lower blood glucose after eating a cookie than not eating anything. So you get stressed, you eat a cookie, your blood sugar, it's as if all that you did was save your muscles from being broken down. This blood sugar was the same or even lower when you had the cookie. So how messed up is that? How weird is that? It's kind of dangerous. You don't want to be eating cookies all the time. But it's stress. The problem is stress. So carbohydrate-rich and protein-poor foods improve mood and stress coping following acute stress-inducing tasks only in stress-vulnerable subjects. I have a video coming out about this. I think that there are certain types of INTJs that are just kind of chill and they don't get stressed easily. And then there are other kinds that are kind of obsessive and mission-driven and like crazy, almost like the Elon Musk type. That's the type I am. I'm always thinking about, like, it actually stresses me how much, like the problems in the world stress me. They literally increase my stress, my baseline stress. But I'm in general sensitive to stress as well. Just a loud noise, could just spike my stress. So stress requires blood glucose to rise, whether from food or existing glycogen or protein. That's just how it is. So unless most stressors are eliminated, exercise is required to stay in ketosis. You're given this rising glucose so that you can use it. And so you have to use it. You don't have to use it immediately. It's better, but it can be stored as glycogen and then accessed easily later when you exercise. And then you can get back into ketosis. So whether you eat carbohydrates or not, some situations require more glucose than is available while in ketosis. If you don't use that blood glucose, you'll either store it as glycogen or fat once you don't have enough room left for glycogen, and you'll exit ketosis. This has been my biggest problem. I can't get away from it. So, but this is, I've developed some helpful techniques for this. So, all right, let's go to the next section. Lose fat by reducing chronic stress. This is the big topic. So chronic stress increases the risk of every common health issue, like obesity, cancer, pretty much everything. A pattern of occasional stress spikes is healthier than one of constant moderate stress. Reducing chronic stressors is ideal, but there are ways to mitigate its effects. Status and serotonin, knowledge. I'd say knowledge actually reduces this chronic stress in a lot of cases. But anyways, so stress tolerance and muscle mass. So let's learn about these. Status and serotonin. Status is an interesting thing. It's not dominance or power. It is likability and respect. It's how many people you have supporting you. The higher status, the less likely you'll be the target of aggression, and the more likely others will defend and support you. The lower your status, the more vulnerable and sensitive you are to threats of all kinds. And that requires more energy, which is stress, to deal with, and more often. And it's a subconscious reaction. Serotonin is a marker of self-perceived status, and it reduces cortisol levels. So, there are many dimensions of this. I don't have issues with most dimensions, but I have to improve in this area because people instinctively have less respect for obese and weak people. It's just reality. And it creates a feedback loop that's difficult to break out of. But all else being equal, as a person gets stronger and fitter, their chronic cortisol will decrease and they will find it easier and easier to get fitter. Health is like a feedback loop. The more you're in a healthy state, the easier it is to maintain. So, yeah, people just, you feel it. You feel that people, this is what I've heard because I haven't been super fit in a long time. But yeah, people say that you just have kind of more respect. That reduces your stress. It has to. Like you're not alone. You can get more help. Yeah, it just kind of cushions you from a lot of the threats and dangers in life. So, yeah, I need to scroll up. All right, knowledge, my favorite one. When you don't know how much energy you're going to need, your body prepares for the possibility that requires the highest amount of energy or stress because it's a disaster to under-prepare. So reducing uncertainty reduces cortisol. And here are some example uncertainties and ways to reduce stress through learning. If you're worried your car might break down on the freeway, you can learn about cars, and you can maybe get your car looked at by a mechanic or look at it yourself. That increases your confidence and that reduces your chronic stress. And these are things that we deal with every day, and you just have to take care of it once. If you might have cancer and you're worried, you can see a doctor. And if you don't have it, your stress will just go away. And you could have had it gone earlier, but procrastination increases chronic stress. If you're worried your phone might be giving you cancer, you should learn basic physics about electromagnetic radiation, because being worried about your phone giving you cancer is like being worried about getting a stab wound from a pillow. You don't need to see all the studies to see if, maybe it could. Like we have to look at a large number of people and statistics. If you just understand the basic physics of these photons that are so weak they just go through most stuff, and if you understand what cancer is, like it's ridiculous to think that infrared light can give you cancer. That is ridiculous. So this is actually kind of a worry that some people have, and it's totally not an issue. And so basically, chaos is stressful because you don't know how much energy you need, so you prepare for the worst. When you understand the universe better, you can predict it better and you can act accordingly. And so everything is more measured and proportional to the actual reality underneath. And because of the way biology and survival works, that actually overall reduces your chronic stress. And this is like a feedback cycle, because the lower your chronic stress is, the easier it is to learn about new things, because you're more patient, you're more curious, you are just able to, like cortisol, it reduces memory, chronic stress. So yeah, a lot of these things are nonlinear. They're feedback loops. So an entire life of knowing how the universe works and learning can really make somebody a lot more able to cope with basic challenges in life. All right, stress tolerance. The body has a toughening response to acute stressors. Cortisol is damaging to the body. So after a person adapts to a pattern of acute stressors, their cortisol levels rise and fall more quickly, minimizing the damage from cortisol. The adrenaline response is also strengthened, which delays the need for cortisol and doesn't have the same damaging effects. The stressor is also less damaging if the person has control over the scenario or can predict the timing of stress. So, voluntary exposure to short-term stressors can strengthen a person's overall stress response. And maybe this is related to how knowledge can reduce stress. For example, an experienced police officer can remain calm in scenarios that appear dangerous to an average person, but aren't, because of knowledge gained from repeated exposure to actual danger. So this is backwards from what a lot of people are trying to do. They feel challenged and like life is really hard, and so they just look for safety and comfort. And that is the opposite of what you want to do. You want to, this is similar to knowledge. You want to look at the problem in the face and solve it. Go solve it, and it will be stressful for a little bit, and then it'll be done. And because it's voluntary, you can predict the outcome, and so your body will time the stress response better and actually uses a bit different brain structures. It's more healthy. So, short-term stress is actually a good thing. It's historically what the body was designed to deal with. You know, like you hear a twig snap and you look back and, there's a giant lizard chasing you. You need energy now. And then when the lizard's gone and you're eating it or whatever, you can relax, no more stress. But when you're like, okay, I think there's a lizard on the other side of that mountain, a dragon. There's a dragon on the other side of that mountain. I'm worried any day it could come kill us. But then you don't care, like you just hope that it doesn't. That is chronic stress. And that's like taxes. That's like your car, your check engine light. That's like something you haven't maintained, and you know that it might break because you haven't maintained it. All right, and this one frustrates me. This one was not talked about for a long time. Muscle mass. Nobody talks about it, but I kind of put this together. Just myself. People, there's like two strategies only. One is reduce calorie intake and reduce weight, and just kind of get smaller. And then the other one is eat all the food, bulk up. Only two strategies. And for somebody who is stressed a lot, you can't afford to not build muscle mass because of this is why. The amount of energy necessary to deal with a stressor isn't solely dependent on total available glycogen, but on the nature of the stressor itself, which is a fixed amount. So, let's say you're trying to get somewhere and there's an obstacle in the way. So let's say you're pulling out a driveway and there's a bike and you're like, oh, I have to get out of my car and move the bike. And you might be late for work or something. So, Jordan Peterson and another doctor, I can't remember who, they looked at the amount of stress that is released in response to obstacles, and it's actually proportional to the amount of energy you need for the obstacle. That makes sense, right? You don't need more energy than you need. So you're going to get stressed exactly how much you might need to expend to deal with the problem at hand. And that doesn't depend on how much muscle you have. The bike in the way isn't a bigger obstacle if you have bigger muscles. You weigh a little more, so you might need a little more energy, but it's mostly a fixed issue. And a lot of life issues are like this. Some are give it all you can, but others are here's a specific amount of stress. And a person who's stronger, for them, it's relatively easier to deal with these stressors. And here's exactly how it works. The liver can store 100 grams of glucose in package form, whereas muscle can store between 5 to 800 grams of glycogen, depending on the person. So this is like 3 livers of difference between strong and weak people. So each pound of muscle can store 6 grams of glycogen, and an increase in muscle mass will increase the ratio of glycogen storage to the amount of glucose released by stress. So fixed amount of glucose, but the glycogen storage is higher. And so blood sugar is going to be more stable, and that prevents all kinds of damage, including diabetes. So yeah, like the glucose, any excess glucose, it can immediately package into glycogen, and it's already useful. It has a place to go, so it's not floating around and doing damage in your body. So muscles also reduce the amount of fat that needs to be created in response to stress. During exercise, the body uses up its stored glycogen before accessing stored fat, because it is easier to convert into glucose. But the body has a limited amount of space for storing glycogen. Once that space is full, it has to store it in fat cells. So one way to prevent stress from storing excess energy as fat is to increase the size of the glycogen stores. The more, this is a quote from an article, the more muscle your body has, the more excess glucose your body can use or flush out. That stabilizes your blood sugar. It gives you room. It gives you room to have higher blood sugar, higher stress, and not have to store it as fat. And it avoids so many other health problems. So also, it can probably defer getting out of ketosis longer, because you can then use that glycogen and then, yeah. So I don't know. I'm still learning, but this is what I think. So putting it all together, one more thing, circadian rhythm. This is usually like your average natural stress cycle. Every day you go through this cycle. The cortisol rises in the morning, gives you energy to get up and get things done, and then gradually decreases over time until night when you go to sleep. So, that is something that I'm not interested in like disrupting, and I want to support it. So if you have stress up here, you want to eat carbohydrates to reduce the requirement of stress to raise blood glucose, because stress, all it is perception of required energy. When you perceive required energy and you eat carbs, that's what's going to raise your blood sugar instead of cortisol, which is damaging and reduces muscle. So, people usually lose muscle mass on the keto diet. The body always needs a certain amount of glycogen to be ready for emergencies. So it's always got that little store for bursts of energy. And in order to get into ketosis, you need to consistently eat less carbs than what's required to keep this emergency store. So you're below that line. And so every time you need energy, you without eating carbohydrates, cortisol is needed to create that glycogen from somewhere else, from proteins in the body, or if you eat proteins, I guess. But cortisol is needed either way. And then acute stressors can cause a lot of damage when the glycogen store is low, because you need the glucose. So, right. So basically, I think my general strategy is to have protein in the morning so I don't dull this natural response of increasing cortisol. And then as soon as I'm done with work and I can relax, I will use up that, I will exercise and use up that stored glycogen from all the excess glucose from sitting in a chair and working on meaningless work, and my body saying, get up, get out of this, stop doing this meaningless crap. This is stupid. I can't control that. My brain does that. It gives me cortisol unless I eat carbs. So that's where stress eating comes from, is to spare your body from being eaten by cortisol. And so you can have your glucose high, and then I'm going to exercise and release it and get back into ketosis, and then repeat every day. So 8 hours of kind of higher blood sugar with stress from working, and then immediately after work and until the start of work, I'm going to make sure that my glycogen's low by exercising, and I'm in ketosis. So here's what it looks like for me. I also want to lose weight, so while I'm still kind of in ketosis, I'm gonna exercise as well, and I just love mountain biking. So I'm working with people in different time zones soon, and so I'm splitting up work like this, and I'm gonna eat some carbs. Like I'm sensitive to stress, so I do think that some carbs are good in the morning, but mostly protein, so I don't reduce the amount of cortisol too much from the natural morning amount, but then it's still insufficient. This is actually going to be 750 calories. So I'm burning more than I'm eating, probably like 200 or 300 calories more. And so that'll help lose fat over time, because it will be using ketones as well. It's only the bursts of energy that really need the glucose. So I will be using up ketones here. And then I'm going to eat kind of a regular keto lunch. My experience is after I go mountain biking, I feel more calm. I haven't really measured blood sugar, but I think the idea is my blood sugar is high from the exercise, and cortisol, so my body doesn't interpret, it's a step down from what energy I was expending before. And so it doesn't require me to eat carbs. Like I feel calm, even though I'm doing something that is still annoying and stressful. It's a little less than before when I was exercising. So anyway, but as the day progresses, I get more and more impatient, and it's killing more and more of my life. It pays well, but it kills my soul. So it's temporary. Only do this for like a month or two, but I'm going to be working randomly, and most people have to do work, and you don't always like it. So anyway, as the day progresses, I'm eating more and more carbs to help cortisol go down while still meeting the requirement of higher energy. And then when I'm at my peak glycogen store, I'm going to lift weights, and that's when I want to build muscle. And then I will do cardio to relax and burn through the rest of that glycogen and make sure that I return to ketosis. So that's my daily routine. It won't be exactly like this, but everything that I know about myself and how my body is working, this seems like the best way to get fit, because I need muscle mass, and over time that will reduce the amount of fat that my body creates if I have to have elevated blood sugars for a while. It'll store more and more so that I can lift weights. And I don't know what kind of stressor this is, if it's fixed or proportional to my energy potential. But I think getting out of your chair and walking around, that's probably what my body wants me to do when I'm just sitting in my chair working. So I think it's at least partially fixed. So, but who knows? I'm still learning a ton. There's so much to learn. I've spent a long time learning this stuff already, and it just feels like I probably still don't know enough. But it's fun to learn and to see real things that are happening, and not just assume certain things about how exercise and fitness works. It's good to know, so that I can be motivated, because if you don't know the outcome of your actions, it's impossible to be motivated. You'll just have some default energy that you need to expend in some direction, and it's going to be random. But when you can clearly see what reality is, and you have a map, you have a direction, and then you'll have the energy to move in that direction. So that's what I'm hoping. And yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe this helps somebody, but I thought I would upload it because I spent a long time learning all this, and I think there are challenges specific to INTJs probably that this is really relevant to, but I think a lot of people as well struggle with chronic stress. So I think it's probably the biggest problem in modern life, actually. But a lot of people can remove stress by changing their lifestyle. But for me, it's difficult. There's always something that is really, really worrying me. So yeah. Anyway, all right, that's it. And please leave comments if you know of any relevant research or podcasters that I could learn more from. And yeah, thanks for watching.